Hi, Bill. How you doing?
Yeah, fine, thank you. Good morning.
Good. We're going to talk a little bit about your growing up in Rector.
I was born on a cold January 19th day, 1936, in the Snowden house in East Rector, and Dr. Futrell delivered me. And I later moved. We lived with my grandmother, and she bought a house on 3rd Street, and Mother and Daddy moved in with her. It was a kind of in those days had duplex houses. So we lived on one side and grandmother lived on the other side. And I stayed there until she sold the house and moved to St. Louis. And that was, I was in the maybe second or grade or so, I think. We moved out to the parish house. Uh, and we rented houses in those days. And I stayed there until we moved to town on, let's see, Dodge Street, I believe. Uh, you're on Fordyce, right? So,
Yes.
yeah, we moved on Dodge Street, and I stayed there until I graduated from high school and went into the Air Force.
Uh, yeah, that's just it was just a half a block from the grocery store, right?
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. And when we first moved there, the grocery store was King's down on Main Street. And then Dortch opened a grocery store. Vernon Dortch opened a grocery store in the old, I believe it's the old Hardin building, Hardin Hardware building, or it may have been
Yeah.
next door. Anyway,
Yeah.
on
No,
Main
it
Street.
it was. Yeah.
And then later he moved down just half a block from our house on Dodge Street, and Mother could walk to the grocery store. And then he stayed there. I'm not sure when he then. I think he closed that. I don't know if he sold it. I had gone
It,
from Rector then, so I don't have much memory of that period. But anyway,
yeah. I
uh,
was actually
I
working for
literally
Vernon
grew up on
when he
Dodge
sold it.
Street, across from the
Yeah.
Methodist Church.
Yeah, I was working for Vernon when he sold that to the IGA at Piggott. Those guys at Piggott.
Yeah.
Yeah, Irvin and Morris and that bunch. Okay, what about when you were a teenager? Got a couple of stories you want to tell about being a teenager in Rector, Arkansas?
Well, it was extremely boring growing up in Rector because there was very little to do. And I know when I spoke at Doyle Pruitt's funeral, and before he passed away, he asked me to say some things there. And one of the things that he wanted me to talk about was how boring it was as teenagers growing up in Rector, which led us to play a lot of sports. And there was a lot of good athletes that developed from the boredom of Rector. And I think some creativity, sometimes mischievous creativity, but we hung out together and we bonded as kids. Uh, so in those days, nobody had air conditioning and nobody had television. So at night, we stayed outside till it was time to go to bed, and as a result, we just hung out on street corners together in groups of teenagers. And so all the kids, I mean, there'd be 15 or 20 kids hanging out together. And that bond that we formed in those years remains today. George Barker and I were those kids on the street corners, and we're still together. Jim Marlar, who's recently passed away, uh, was one of those. So all those kids, we stayed close friends throughout our lives. George and I, uh, Gloria Rust, uh, who is still living, and so all the kids in town hung out and I know have fond memories. Bobby Morton, when she passed away, talked about those high school days of all hanging out together, going to the movie at Ford Theater together, and then going by Off's Bakery to get some fresh bread or donuts that would be being baked for the next day. So uh, it was a different culture in those years, and we became fast friends that lasted for a lifetime. And I see kids today, they don't even form the kind of friendships that we had in those years because they rely on technology and cell phones and computers. We had none of that in our years. And I'm grateful that we did not have it because we became friends. Doyle Pruitt, that I mentioned, he was a little older than I was, but age didn't matter in those years uh, because you were kind of bonded together in this little town, and it didn't matter your age. You were together, and you became friends. And Doyle and I remained friends. And Gene Beale was another one who was older than I was, but uh, we're fast friends for life. And you don't see that today because kids have got so much to do. They don't rely on each other like we did. I think we depended on each other, and that was the thing of growing up in Rector.
Well, you mentioned Jim Marlar, and the last time I visited with him, he was telling me that he was an eyewitness to the Marshall murder uptown. Here's a picture of that wall. There's still the holes are still there,
Yeah,
and and that's next to the off bakery you were talking about, I think too.
yeah. Well, I remember that day, but I don't. I was not. I think I was probably at home because I don't remember what day of the week. If Jim witnessed it, he wasn't in school, so it must not have been a school day. It may have been a Saturday. Uh, anyway, I remember hearing it, and then our house was just. This was in front of the bank, which was up on the street corner on Main Street. Doc Futrell's office was back down. I don't know what that street is, but that's right on the corner of where our house was. And I remember I came out, and by the time I got down there, it was all over. But Doc Futrell charged out of his, I guess, out of his office. I'm not sure about that, but I know he was the first on the scene and disarmed the guys. And he and Jess McCord took the guys into custody. But yeah, that was a day uh, Rector became famous for when the chief of police was shot down on the street on Main Street.
Well, and another thing I've heard you talk about was Moe's Night.
Mose was the only black citizen in Clay County, and he lived out north of town between the old Boydsville Road. I guess it's about a mile and a half or maybe 2 miles out there. We used to walk out there, but but Moe's was kind of a novelty to us kids because we didn't know anything about black people, and he was well known in Rector, and he came to town and brought his banjo and sat on the curb at the curb in front of Hardin store was elevated. It was about 3 feet high or so. So he'd sit up on that curb and play his banjo, and all of us kids would gather and listen to him sing old Negro spirituals. And so we became pals with, and he was referred to in those days as Nigger Mose. And he, and sometimes Uncle Mose. But we loved him and really became good friends with him. We used to hike out to his house, and he would sit on the porch and sing and play those songs. He was pretty feeble by these days. I mean, I was probably 8 years old, and this was in the 40s, uh, and and we would our parents or somebody would give us food of a care package for Mose, and we'd hike out and take it to him. And so we had a very special relationship with him. And I remember when he passed away, we lost a friend, and that was the case with every kid in town was attached to Mose Knight. So we had a very fond relationship with him.
I ran into this picture, and I don't have any idea what it is. Do you? Younger days.
Well, when I was in the Secret Service, the Baptist Church asked me to if I would come back and speak to the congregation, and I came back and when we would speak, do public speakings, we had demonstrations that we would use, and that's what you're seeing there set up. And yeah, I came back to Rector and spoke to the Baptist Church.
Okay. But speaking of the Secret Service, uh, and Bill hasn't seen these pictures, so he doesn't know. I'm just bringing them up, and and then he's commenting on them. So
Well, that's a photo that was an evidence of the Kennedy assassination commission investigation, and that's Lee Harvey Oswald as he's coming down from the city jail. He was being transferred to the county jail, and that particular picture is just before he was shot. So a matter of seconds, I think, before Jack Ruby stepped out in front of him there and shot him in the chest.
this was, I understand you were assigned to Marina Oswald.
When well, I was in Washington when the president was killed, and I was immediately assigned to the Warren Commission investigation. So I went to Dallas, and part of that investigation, I was assigned to Marina Oswald for a period in security, and because we were concerned that someone might try to kill her as a key witness, and so I was assigned to Marina and Marguerite, Lee's mother, and his brother. Uh, I can't think of his brother's name right now, but anyway, I was assigned to the family and spent time with them, and then immediately pulled off of that and assigned to the Warren Commission, the investigation at the Texas School Book Depository, where I remained for some time. But anyway, I kind of established a relationship with Marina when I was assigned to her. I treated her well, and I think she appreciated the respect that I showed her, and so we became. I think she viewed it as a somewhat of a friendship. It was official duty to me, but I got along with her very well, and she later wanted to have a picture made with me and signed that picture and gave it to me. But I went to later in March of the following year, 1964, I accompanied her to the Warren Commission to testify. Actually, I accompanied Marguerite to the Warren Commission as well for their testimony. And then that was kind of the end of my participation. Once I returned to Dallas with them, and I went with Marguerite first, and then went back to Dallas and came then with Marina. And after she testified, then I returned to my duty station in Little Rock. And so I'd been gone since October of '63. That's when Kennedy came to Arkansas. I was with him. I'd advanced the Arkansas date for the Secret Service along with other agents, but because of my Arkansas connection, I was a good friend of Orville Faubus, and the Secret Service wanted to be sure that Faubus gave his full support for security and assigned me to coordinate the advance with Faubus. So I went back to Washington with Kennedy in October and stayed there in an advanced training course until that Friday when he was killed. And then I went straight to Dallas for the investigation. There's kind of a weird story when, but just there's one other photo you don't have, I'm sure. When I was in Washington, assigned to the White House, and Kennedy was preparing to go to Texas. So I went in to his chief of staff and asked him if he would get the president to sign a picture for my parents. And he said, well, sure. So that was the week that he was to depart. And I was not aware if he did sign it, and I hoped that he did, but now he's dead. And that Friday, of course, I don't know when I first talked to my mother, and I'm now in Dallas, and my mother said, you know, we were the afternoon that Kennedy was shot, we received in the mail an autographed picture from President Kennedy to Mr. and Mrs. Henry Carter. And they proudly hung that picture on their wall until they both had passed away. I have it now, and it's always a good
how cool is that? Yeah.
a good piece to explain to visitors to the house when they see the curiosity about the picture from Kennedy. But then the picture you're showing me is a picture of Kennedy's trip to Arkansas when I was with him in 1963. That was October. I don't remember the date, but it was like the second week of October, 1963.
I had this picture up there for a minute. I'll let you explain that.
And then this picture you're showing me is of me on the steps of the Capitol when the family is leaving the Capitol Rotunda. So when the body came to the White House. I was there uh, that 4 o'clock that morning when it came from Bethesda Medical Center, and they transported it to the White House for viewing by the family and by the White House staff. And then that Saturday, it was moved to the Capitol Rotunda, where it was lying in state for Saturday and Sunday until we took it to the cathedral. But anyway, so I was assigned to the body uh, at the Capitol Rotunda, and there's several pictures worldwide of the family going in and out of the Capitol. And it was very interesting. I stood there as hundreds of thousands of mostly young people. One of the amazing things is, I don't know what percentage, but young people from all over America uh, drove to Washington to view Kennedy's casket. And I spoke to them and wondered why they did that. And they said uh, their whole future was rest with Kennedy, and with his death, they felt like their future had been destroyed, and they were so. That was their generation. Kennedy represented my generation. We were the same age. I was 26 then, and that was the average college student was 20. So we had a lot in common. But anyway, that's what that picture represented.
Okay, well, let's move up a little farther here to your music career. I was trying to find, sorry, not very prepared apparently. I thought I had, yeah, here's one.
Yeah, Tanya Tucker.
That made you smile a little
bit. Well, actually, I had left the Secret Service, going back to law school, and I'm now practicing law. And one of my first musical client was the Rolling Stones, and I was in New York in meetings with the Stones, and a CBS record executive. I was introduced to him, and of course, I'm representing the Rolling Stones. I mean, everybody wanted to meet me, and so this CBS executive said, "Look, we've got this artist that's just a young girl, and she's got a manager that's not qualified, and we need some help. And so, could we send her dad to you? And would you agree to help them?" And so I said yes. And Bo Tucker called me, and he came to Little Rock, and with Tanya and the family, and I met with them and agreed to represent them. So that's Tanya signing a new contract with MCA Records, a multi-million-dollar contract. And that's Mike Maitland, the president of MCA in Los Angeles, who came to Little Rock in my office to sign that contract. So that was a great part. I still see Tanya. I saw her recently. She was just inducted into the Hall of Fame this year. And we've remained friends throughout her career. Then you were showing pictures of Jagger and Keith Richards, who've Keith's become a lifelong friend, and that's a picture. Keith came to Nashville. He called me one night and said, "What are you doing tomorrow? I'd like to come down and see you." He said, "I'm writing a book about my life, and there's some years there kind of fuzzy." and I need you to help me remember some of those things. And so I said, yeah, I'll bet. So anyway, he flew down, and I believe it was a Saturday, and we spent most of the day talking about those fuzzy years. And so anyway, and then the
Here's some
other,
more.
let's see, the other picture.
Oh, I'm
Uh,
sorry.
oh, that's Reba when we met. Al Gore was in town when he was. I guess he was vice president then. He might have just been senator. He looks like awful young, but anyway, that's a picture. We were at a reception for him, and I was accompanying Reba McEntire.
Yeah.
And this picture is Bill Gaither, my loyal client, and Jay Dickey, who I'd have to. Jay Dickey's an Arkansas congressman, and Jay and I were in law school together. And a little history on Jay's from Pine Bluff, and he played basketball and tennis for the Arkansas athletic teams. And we became lifelong friends. And a quick, interesting story. After law school, I practiced in Little Rock and then moved on to Nashville. But I stayed friends with Jay, and every anniversary of my birthday, I either got a card or a phone call from Jay Dickey. And finally, I didn't get one year, and a day or two later, I got the call that he had passed away. And his daughter carries on that legacy. On my birthday, I get a call from Jay Dickey's daughter. So we were
That's
lifelong
really
friends,
nice.
and a dedicated public servant, and I'm proud to call him a friend. So anyway, now
Here's a really
Billy
one.
Graham, I was honored. I was executive producer of the biography of his life we did for public broadcasting, and we were somewhere on the road on a crusade, and we were backstage discussing some things, and there was other people there. There was a kind of a mini meeting, and it was completed, and we were leaving, and his photographer grabbed me and said, "Bill, I'd like to get a picture of you and Dr. Graham." And he asked Billy, "Do you have a moment for?" Now he's preparing to go out and preach before 75,000 people in a football stadium, and he said, "Do you have time to have a picture with Mr. Carter?" And he said, "Of course." And he took my hand and set me down. And here he is about to go out. He's preparing for this sermon. And he took the time and turned to me, and it was all about me. He wanted to know about me, my history, and where I was from. And he was so gracious. I mean, I'd been around him, but this was this special moment that we had our picture made together. So anyway, and later I attended his funeral when he passed away. It was by invitation only. So anyway, this is Vince Gill, my good friend and country singer. This picture was at the Johnny Cash Music Festival, which he came and did when we were doing this for Arkansas State University to raise funds to restore Johnny Cash's boyhood home in Dyess, Arkansas. So Vince came and did that show for nothing to raise money for this benefit for Johnny Cash. And that same show, Chris Christopherson, George Jones, and I can't think of the other gentleman was working as a assistant producer on the show with me. Can't think of his name for the life of me. But anyway, Chris and George became good friends. And that's this was another show of there was 4 shows that we did, and this was another one where Loretta, Reba, and Bobby Bear, all Hall of Fame members, all performed on that particular show. So it was great being there with them. And here's the infamous Joey Pruitt, who was the production supervisor for the entire series of four years that we did shows for the Johnny Cash Music Festival.
That was when I completed my dream. My dream was to work with the legends, and Bill afforded me that opportunity, and I'll forever be grateful.
Well, and you did it. You did a great job, and it's much appreciated. I tell you, everybody appreciated the job you did. That's a huge undertaking. The production, coordinating with all the musicians, all the production that went on, and you did a great job of it. So appreciate it. And here's my buddy Keith. The picture when he was, we were standing in front of his airplane, he asked me, "What are you doing these days?" And I told him that I'd started this foundation in Rector to help disadvantaged school children. And I didn't bother him with it because, you just don't go on stuff like this with artist, and so I just mentioned it casually. And we spent the day together. He went back to New York, and the following week I got a call from the office, and they said, "Are you home on Wednesday? You're receiving a package from the Stones office." And I didn't. It could have been anything, and so I said, "Fine, I'll be home." And in the mail, Federal Express, came this guitar that Keith had signed with a photograph and a letter of authentication that he had signed it, picture made of him signing it, and saying that Keith, he wanted to donate it to my foundation and Rector to help the disadvantaged children. And that guitar, I believe, brought $100,000. We had an auction, and I think it brought $100,000 to the foundation. And this is a Hall of Fame picture where I was inducted into the Hall of Fame. And the person on my left, gosh, I can't think of the names, but he's the music director of Jimmy Buffett's band. And
Mike Utley.
my memory is not so good, but he was so remained in touch with him, and when Don Light was Jimmy's former manager, and when he passed away, I called him and told him I needed to talk to Jimmy. He put me in touch with Jimmy, and I called Jimmy, and Jimmy did a video for Don Light's funeral, and I had known Jimmy not well, but he knew who I was when I called him, and we had a nice chat. And I was so sad when he recently passed away.
This is pictures.
This is at the Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame too.
Yeah, and this is my daughters, Julia and Joanna. And the rest of that other picture was all the family. This is my grandson and granddaughter, grandson Carter Hanson and Olivia Hanson, my granddaughter. So nice tie there.
Yeah, to your daughters.
Yeah.
They are sweethearts.
Yeah, and when I was inducted again into the Arkansas. What was anyway? I was
Arkansas Entertainers Hall of Fame.
uh, yeah, but later I was inducted into. I'm sorry. Anyway, I couldn't go, and the girls went and accepted the award for me.
Yeah, that was Arkansas Country Music. I can't remember what
Lifetime
the
Achievement Award.
Lifetime Achievement Award. Yeah, that's it.
You can see that my memory is not as good as it used to be, and anyway, it's good in certain things.
Well, the I guess the last thing we have to talk about is this:
The book.
the book. And if you haven't read this book, you're really missing it. You can't believe one person has lived this many lives.
Well, and the amazing thing to me is that the book still sells. I just got an email about a request for books, and it still sells well. Uh, I think it came out in '05, and it's the sales have been steady since, and it seems like people discover it. It never really kind of gets out of date because of the history that it covers. People are either interested in Kennedy or the Rolling Stones, and I literally get emails from all over the world, mostly about the Rolling Stones, but I also have received a lot from about Kennedy as well.
Can you think of anything we left out? We went through those pictures pretty quick, but tried to keep the interview down less than 2 hours, So
Well, I think I'm always happy to come back to Rector and talk about Rector. I used to speak a lot, public speakings, and I always open my speech with, like Johnny Cash, "Hi, I'm Bill Carter, and I'm from Rector, Arkansas." And I always love to talk about Rector because Rector meant so much to me growing up, and there's so many people that helped me there. And I always said that my parents were not well educated, and that their education limited their ability to maybe to help me. And when I came back out of the Air Force, I was in college, but I lived in Rector the first couple of years, and so I became acquainted with everybody, reacquainted with everybody in town, and so many of the leaders in the community reached out and helped me and got me involved in politics, advised me, gave me the kind of counsel that a young adult needs, and I'm so grateful for that. Uh, Henry Allstat was one that stands out. He he got me involved in the first Sheriff Leon Beaton was running for sheriff, and he got me involved in Leon's campaign. And in my old '54 Ford, I went all over Clay County distributing materials for Leon, sitting on a front porch drinking iced tea and talking to people about Leon Beaton, and he got elected, and we became friends for life too, I might add. And and then later, I just began to. Henry got me involved in a Lee Ward's political campaign for governor, and that launched me into multiple campaigns for years to come. And so I became very active in Arkansas politics, all because of the encouragement of Henry Allstat. But there are other people in the community that reached out to me and encouraged me. And I'm so grateful. I'm so blessed to have grown up in Little Rector, Arkansas. And I might add poor because, you know, we appreciated everything we had and everything that we got. And that's a result of the poor economic situation that we were thrust into. So, but all that's good. And I remember Johnny Cash once saying, what was it like growing up so poor in Dyess, Arkansas? And he said, you know, I loved it because I didn't know I was poor. Well, you know what? We who bonded and grew up on the streets of Rector often talked about we were all poor. We didn't know it. We were so happy in Rector. And so I give blessings every day for having been born and raised in Rector, Arkansas. So thank you, Rector.